Good Saturday afternoon, everybody. Meteorologist Zach Friendly here with you. And the latest information on Hurricane Nate. The storm has, I think, peaked in intensity. That's great news. But we're about to come up to a landfall, one of two landfalls possibly of the storm. It does look like the storm is going to make it to a southeast Louisiana landfall. What does that mean? Well, depending on where you live, it really might mean nothing, or it could mean that your impacts are going to be a little bit stronger. If anybody lives in southern Plaquemines, I hope they've taken the officials' advice and headed out of town because, yeah, Southern Plaquemines is not that populated, but there are people that live there, and this is probably going to place the landfall. First one is going to come up somewhere along Southern Plaquemines Parish. Once you get south of, say, Port Sulphur, Buras area, we're going to see our first landfall. Here's the latest radar imagery with this thing. And the center is now due south of the mouth of the river. And notice how the convection, it's not exactly right. You can't, earlier, right when the storm came into view of radar, you could see almost like an eye was trying to develop. It was a lot better developed. Something is happening right now, and the storm is slowly weakening. Why is that happening? Well, two things are occurring at this time. The first thing, it's now moving very close to the coastline. And these waters of the northern Gulf, it's October. They're a little bit cooler. You're starting to mix up, turn up that water with some winds. It's starting to bring that cooler water to the surface, and it's ingesting that cooler water. The second thing is the cold front is coming, and it's starting to interact with it. That's bringing dry air, and it's increasing the shear over the system. So that is two things that are fighting against this thing from strengthening anymore, and I'm pretty sure we've seen the peak intensity of Nate. Nate is probably going to slowly weaken as it kind of makes its turn, and it does look like it's trying to make its turn. Not exactly turning very quickly. We track this thing all across the Gulf, and I've been on this bandwagon of the GFS and the Euro are farther west. They keep trying to hit southeast Louisiana, keep trying to go through Plaquemines Parish. Guess what? They were basically right. They're not as far as the Euro. The Euro went more so into Grand Isle, but Plaquemines Parish does look to take a direct hit from this storm. And here's the latest visible satellite imagery. But a couple things I want to point. All of your convections, your deep convections all over here. Okay, we're getting another bubble up right here, and that's probably going to expand. So it's trying to recover. This thing's just not going to fall apart as it moves inland. It's gonna try to recover and do some things. But see over here, all this white cloudiness, that's just the outflow. There's really nothing. And one problem the storm has had all along is the way it developed. It's not your typical hurricane developing, okay? Even when it was down here over the Caribbean, and I know I'm going off the screen, but say when it was in the Gulf, we've had this huge circulation that has been part of across Central America. That is allowing all the strong winds to be on the right side. And it's not allowing the circulation to totally close itself and bring those strong winds on the left side, because what's happening is it's rotating around a big axis, and a hurricane is a small point. Hurricanes want to be very small, they want to be very tight, and they want to spin really fast. Okay, in this case with Nate, it's spinning really fast on the right side of the storm, but the left side of the storm, because of that extension to another little areal pressure over the southwest Gulf, it can't bring that west wind or that left side of the circulation. It can't really tighten it up. It can't really strengthen it. So that's why this storm, we've been saying it, it's lopsided. Most of the weather, most of the heavy rain is always on the right side of the storm. But with this storm, the winds are really not that strong on the left side. So the latest information, this is going to jump on me, but this is the latest information from the hurricane hunters, okay? They're still 982 millibars, so it's not really weakening yet. I mean, we would see the pressure coming up if it was weakening, and I doubt the pressure is going to come up that much. But you see where the circulation is. It's going to make a landfall because it would have to move more easterly than northerly in this case to not hit the mouth of the river, and it still looks like it's trying to move a little bit more west still. It's hard to tell because of, until we get another pass from the reconnaissance aircraft and they can put another plot. The little white thing, that is the plot, the latest dot on the map of where the center is. So if you just extrapolate this out, moving north-northwest still, and then eventually north, okay, it's going to hit southeast Louisiana. It's going to hit the tip of Plaquemines Parish. They're going to take a full brunt of a hurricane within the next 2 to 3 hours. It's going to be quick. The storm is slowing down, which is a sign that it's trying to turn more northerly. And then, our marsh areas across eastern St. Bernard, again, we're not talking about any population out there, but Breton Sound looks to move right through Breton Sound. And then eventually, once it gets up north, you're talking about some under kind of direct hit from, say, Bay St. Louis over to Gulfport and Biloxi, that is where it most likely will make its final landfall. This little dashed line, this isn't the 4 o'clock track. This is the track before that, but you can see how it is consistently going left of track. Okay, it has consistently done that. So it has sort of followed those models we've been talking about, the GFS and the European. It is consistently going to the left of the National Hurricane Center's track. And this is the same, I mean, it shows you right here how it's still doing it. Now, is it going to do this? No, that is not going to happen. But it could easily still bump up like this, push some water into Barataria Bay, and come across. But remember, like I said, there's not much on the left side. I could show you that with the latest HRR model. Okay, this is a high resolution model. It shows you the radar out so many hours, in this case 18 hours, but you can see where the center is now. And as I put this into motion here, the center is going to come on shore, Plaquemines Parish, somewhere, not right at the mouth of the river, somewhere just a little bit up Plaquemines Parish. It tries to get into Barataria Bay just a little bit. Okay, but where's all of the storms? Notice how, if you look very closely, they're right here in this banner. And New Orleans, remember, New Orleans is right here. So the western portions or the eastern portions of New Orleans have the best shot at seeing some of those stronger wind gusts as that band moves through tonight. But the amount of rain is just not there. And up above us, the winds are blowing like crazy right now. We have very strong winds. If you go outside and see the clouds, they're moving fast, but you need the rain. You need something to drive that wind down to the ground. And if you don't have convective bands to do that, if you don't have these feeder bands, that's why the wind picks up when those bands move through, because that's bringing that wind from up above down to the ground. If we don't see any rain, you're not going to bring that wind down to the ground if you're across southeast Louisiana. Now, definitely coastal Mississippi, these bands are going to get heavier later on tonight, and about, say, 8 or 9 o'clock, that is the best shot at seeing the strongest winds across southeast Louisiana, metro New Orleans, and the strongest winds will start to move into coastal Mississippi sometime, 7, 8 o'clock tonight, maybe a little bit beyond that, 10 or 11 o'clock. But once we get to midnight, this thing is trucking off to the north, and there you go. There's your Sunday forecast. Absolutely nothing to worry about. We will probably be breaking out in sunshine at that point, and hopefully we will be done with hurricane season altogether this year, because it's been a long year. This has been a long storm. This has been a troubling storm to forecast, but it's as close as you can get to New Orleans for a direct hit as possible without being a direct hit. And that's what makes it so difficult, because a wobble here, a wobble there, whenever a storm's coming right at you or just to your right, you have the chance of the worst impacts and no impacts. In this case, we're going to kind of get a little bit of impact, but it's not going to be much. But thankfully, they can go just a little bit more left, because if that had been the case, then obviously we would have taken the brunt of Nate. But it is October, and it looks like October weather is starting to win out from Nate. That Nate is probably going to start to slowly weaken as it turns itself toward the coast. 2 landfalls, one in Plaquemines Parish in about 2 to 3 hours, and then another one later on tonight along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, somewhere between Bay St. Louis and probably Biloxi, where we'll see that second landfall later tonight. I'm meteorologist Zach with the latest on Nate. I'll, of course, be posting pictures of radar images as we see if we get any of those heavy bands. Remember, you need those heavy bands to see the wind speeds come up across southeast Louisiana. But for the most part, if you're, say, from a line from Grand Isle to Central Jefferson up through Covington along the Causeway area, if you're left of that or west of that, your impacts are probably going to be very minimal. The farther east you get, closer to the coast, New Orleans east, the Wrigley's, Slidell, you have a chance of seeing a much greater impact as far as from winds. But still, we're not talking about hurricane force winds. We're just talking about tropical storm force winds. I hope everybody is planned for this. You've had a great day just relaxing and kind of staying inside, and you might have a few more hours tonight that we could deal with a little bit of power outages and stuff like that. But for the most part, we're going to get through this just fine, and Sunday will be a much better day. Again, I'm meteorologist Zach. Everybody have a great evening, and I'll be updating you through the evening.